that you have questions on. Maybe you want some tickers analyzed to see, hey, would this be potentially a good trade or not? Love to work with this through with you. So it's going to take your participation though. So please go ahead and get your tickers in. You can just put them in the comment box there. That'll work either on Facebook or YouTube. And then we can look at those together. And you know what? If you've got some specific questions like, hey, I'm looking at this ticker and I'm looking at specifically this strategy and these strike prices and this expiration, that's great. Throw it all in there. This is the live trading. I was going to say hour, but we only got about 15, 20 minutes together on this one, but it is essentially the live trading hour just in the condensed form. So because of that, you're going to want to get those tickers in that you have questions on, get them in quickly so that we have time to get through them. Because if we have too many come up, I'm only going to be able to hit so many. But before we completely get started on that, I want to go ahead and take a look at the overall market. And I should also mention that all the examples that we're going to be going over should just be viewed for educational purposes and not for investment advice purposes. So let's take a look at the overall market here. Let's see what we got going on. You can see that we've kind of rallied up in this overall bear market up to the 200 simple, right? I think I mentioned last week this was a key line that I was looking at, and it was pretty interesting. Let me zoom in on this here. You just grab that slice right there. It kissed the 200 almost perfectly. It's kind of cool. That was exciting. And then came back down. Couple days of pullback right there. You can see. So, kind of basic question. What's going to happen here? The 200 simple is a pretty important line to consider. I'm going to unhide my lines. There you go. Those are the lines that I have drawn as well. You can see this uptrending support line now as well. And this longer term downtrending resistance line that coincided right with the 200 simple. So what's the market going to do from here? I mean, to me, I see two possible situations that have a really good chance. The first one would be as we pull back here, maybe we push up again off either the 5 or the 10. And we run right back into the 200 simple and we fall down again. And then we are forming what's called an M pattern. Oftentimes that M pattern is going to be pretty bearish and can honestly be violently bearish. So, if we have that, you could potentially, again, we don't know the future, but potentially you could see some pretty steep drop off, not unlike to what we saw here. That was pretty big right there. Let me pull this slider back a little bit. Here we have an M back here. That was in late January. And there's a pretty significant drop off right there as well. So I could see that happening. But you know what? We've been very good lately at turning bad news into good news. And so the market might just want to push up past that 200 simple. And if it pushes past that, we could be looking at more bullish rallying going on. So interesting times. We'll have to see what happens there. Honestly, that will make trading today a bit more challenging as we don't really know which direction the overall market wants to go. Does it want to fall off or does it want to push up past this resistance line and then continue to rally? So that's going to make it a bit challenging, but I still welcome you to get your tickers in. Let's take a look at those and see what we got. We're going to go ahead and just start off with one. We'll start off with Delta Airlines just to kind of get us rolling while you guys get some of those stocks in to look at. All right, here we go. So Delta Airlines is looking, look at that. It has some similarities to the overall market. There's that big drop off and theirs was quite significant there. But then a little bit of a rally going on here. So we can take a line right about there. This might pull back a little bit more towards that line. But so, in a bullish rally, you're looking at this and you like that pullback, right? That pullback is looking pretty good to us because that's going to potentially give us a pretty good buy point. If we bounce up off that 10, or if we come down to this line, bounce up off that, and this line might not be in the perfect position. It could be more there or there. Remember, guys, it's 2 points to make a line or 3 points to make a trend. So whenever this stock does bounce up, then you'd be able to get a more accurate line down there to confirm a trend. But keep in mind, too, we're looking at Delta Airlines here. It's pulling back, and the overall market is where it is. If the overall market does put in a little M and then tank, I would not be surprised if Delta Airlines gives back all these gains that it made over the last couple months here. Now, if the overall market pushes above that 200 simple, I would not be surprised if Delta Airlines continues to rally and heads up into maybe the 40s right here. That's about 40, upper 30s, low 40s, and maybe even pushing higher than that. So we'll have to see what happens with Delta Airlines there. Let's take a look at another one. Let's look at Lulu. I'm just kind of pulling these out at random. It's just a list that I had to work off of from earlier. So there's not really any magical formula of how I'm getting these. We're just going to look at a few of them until you guys pull up some tickers for us here. So let's look at Lulu here. Got a line that we can probably adjust. That's probably better. There we go. There we go, right there. So you got 1, 2, 3 touches, but it might have already broken that trend as it used the 20 EMA as support right there and moved up from there. So here's a good example of one where it's like, all right, you can keep watching this one, Lulu, but it's not at a great buy point. And again, we have the overall market to kind of contend with. So I would prefer what I'm seeing on Delta Airlines versus Lulu, just because Delta's a lot closer to being at a good buy point. Lulu still has to make the pullback, right? It's right now just kind of riding that 5 EMA. And you guys have heard me said it before, anything that kind of rides that 5 EMA is pretty hot. So that's something that can be considered there. Hey, Kevin, thanks for being on today. I see your comment there. Kevin's saying, don't forget to draw the downtrending line to make the pennant. Downtrend, let's see. Are you talking about the Delta Airlines? Ooh, good eye. Looking at that guy? That's all right. Let me draw that. Let's start from the wick here. See. Okay. So might be something like that going on. It could be more there. Whichever the case, that's a real good eye, Kevin, because he's exactly right. We've got lower highs coming into play here, but higher lows at the same time. So this could very well be a pennant wedge. Now, the question is, which direction is it going to break out from here, right? It can only go so far before it has to break either this uptrending support or the downtrending resistance line. And the answer is usually a pennant wedge is going to break out in the direction of market tone. So that's kind of where we go back to the overall market, right? And what is the overall market going to do? And, in the same way, the overall market kind of is a pennant. If you look at this uptrending support line and this bigger downtrending resistance line. So which direction is it going to go? That's kind of the big question. Yeah, Kevin says no one knows. We don't know the future, right? We can, and this is a case where oftentimes we need to just sit out and wait and see what the market wants to do, because we don't want to guess. We don't want to gamble. We don't want to just go for it. We want to take some educated moves, essentially. And it just depends on overall what is going on. And sometimes it's just hard to know. So, yeah, Kevin's saying if it gets to the top of the pennant with the SPX having gotten through resistance, I'm not sure I'm understanding what your question is there. But we've been kind of looking at this one, having the 200 simple in mind right there, right? So as it has pulled back, okay, that was a little bit expected. Are we ready for this thing to completely drop off? Not yet, but if we can get an M, we could be falling off from there. All right, Kevin, you've been pretty active. I love that. I appreciate that. Go ahead and throw me a ticker in there. We'll go ahead and take a look at that, see what we can find. While I wait for that one, let's just take a look at Apple. Apple is always a fun one to look at. And wow, okay, so Apple, really big rally been going on here, right? I mean, we can try and throw a trend line on here, but frankly, that's going to be pretty steep. It just keeps getting steeper and steeper. Apple approaching these all-time, is that all-time highs? Close, right? You kind of have this whole zone right here, right around $180 or so of resistance, and Apple coming up on that. So Apple's been pretty hot. So we have the overall market that has reached a potential resistance line, and we have Apple that is approaching potential resistance line. So there's some opportunity that this overall rally could be ending. John, how are you doing? It's good to see you. John's asking if we can look at BYRN. Absolutely. Let's take a look, see what we can find. BYRN, Byrna Technologies. All right, here we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and you can see, obviously see this big picture. It's been downtrending quite a bit, right? I mean, earlier in the year, well, I guess I should say about a year ago. So September, it was up near $30 a share and then came all the way down to with single digits. So it's been coming down quite a bit. Let me take a shot of this here. That way we can take a look at it better. Now, here's what's been going on lately, right? Bit of a rally up, push back down. Those are some pretty good drops right there. This one might be earnings related. Move up again. This almost has a slight pennant look to it as well. If you look at that, and then if you were to put an uptrending support line there, this is one. Yes, can we look at it? We're looking at it, but it's one of those that I would be hesitant to do anything with it right now. There's not a pattern out here that screams to me that it's going to be good trading right now. There's not unless you're going to look at this as a roll, you could look at that as a roll. It's not the cleanest roll, and those drop offs are pretty gnarly. But okay, if we're going to look at this as a rolling pattern, kind of a downtrending resistance line though, then we're going to want to wait for it to come down. We're going to wait for it to come down, and if it drops off how it has, that could be pretty quick, right? I mean, this could honestly, it could take a day or two, 3 days or so, and then you could be right back down just below $8 a share. And at that point, if you get a decent bounce, that could be something you could consider for trading. So not the cleanest roll that I would consider, but this is definitely one that, it has potential if it follows all those steps that we just laid out. Kevin says he tends to trade the SPX, but Tesla should be interesting, especially since they are splitting on August 22nd. Let's take a look at Tesla. All right. Tesla is always a fun one to look at. Very volatile. And wow, okay, yeah, take a look at this. So, okay, there we go. Let's go back to 6-month chart. You can see it came down quite a bit. I believe Tesla was actually one of our not hot stocks several weeks ago when we were still doing that. Pretty serious rally on Tesla, and then one leg down, a move up to about the same place here, right? With that, we can draw a resistance line right there. You've got 1, 2, 3 touches there. So yeah, Tesla's in an interesting place. Pull that. You can see that support, uptrending support right there. And then it kind of turned into uptrending resistance as well. Now, if Tesla moves down, that would be forming an M. And then you might be looking for, is it going to follow through with the M to the downside and then maybe get back into this $700 range area? So that could be an interesting one to look at. Kevin mentioning the 3-to-1 split. I don't see that on here. I got to look into that. So I'll look into that, because usually we're going to see a split signal on there. Make sure I got that turned on. events. Yep. So I'll look into that. But yeah, if Tesla splits, of course, it's going to make it a bit easier for us to trade for those that have smaller accounts. So that'll help out as well. But some interesting things to keep an eye on with Tesla, if it does complete that M. It could also just decide to just go sideways a little bit, or it could continue moving up, but just at a slower rate, right? I mean, Tesla tends to go pretty crazy sometimes. So maybe just wants to go a little bit slower. So there you go. That's going to do it for live trading today. Thank you, John and Kevin, for participating. Love that you guys were on today. Again, here we are, overall market. We'll just kind of have to see what happens. I'm excited for next week because I think we're going to get some answers here, or we're going to be very close to it. So, all right, that's going to wrap it up for live trading. Before I forget, I need to let you guys know about one thing. There's the broker that we recommend, and it's Tradier. And we're doing an intro webinar for Tradier. I'm going to drop the link in the comments here. And if you're interested, next Thursday at 11 a.m. Central, so right before live trading with me, there's going to be a free intro to Tradier webinar. You're going to get to learn all about the broker that we at Tradeway recommend and why we recommend them. So thank you guys being on. Dennis, thank you as well. See you on there as well. So we'll see you guys next week. Thanks.